we'll probably pick up another one or two. There's a lot going on right now. My astrologist said that we have the election coming up. And apparently 2 things are going to be going on during the election. Astrologically, there's more stuff, but one, Mars is retrograding. So when a planet retrogrades, Mars is energy, assertion, aggression. Okay, so, very important for an athlete to some degree. If you look at martial art, Martial has Mars in it. It's going back and forth. There's a lot of swings happening. Energy, and then all of a sudden energy goes away. Right? And so there's going to be a lot of quote unquote mood swings, not just personally, but it depends on where your Mars is. Exactly your Mars is. And the other thing is, not yet, but during that period of the the election, I call it the presidential election because it's obviously that's what is on everybody's mind. Mercury will be retrograding. So you're getting Mars doing its retrograde number, right? Most of the time, it's not in a fixed position because planetarily it moves in relationship to other planets, but when it's retrograding, then everything becomes uncertain. Extremes happen. You can be very, very like that. You can wonder where everything went. And Mercury is communication travel. So expect problems, just in terms of communication. So of course, we're running into issues, with the mail, especially mail-in ballots. And so that right there, you get those 2 very important planets retrograde. Okay. So, in planetary energies are energies, they exist, all right? And so what I found interesting was Carl Jung wound up studying mainly alchemy. But what he was really studying, apparently, before he started to zoom in on alchemy was astrology, because it's about energies. And to some degree, it's about energies that can affect us. And you have a really good cycle, then, you have, and most of the time, because of the planets, or certain planets, that when you are born, they're around your birth type, your birth time, date, time, right? Fixed. So if you have your birth time, you understand where the planets were, and that's probably the most important thing. But the planets are in motion. Everyone has a cycle here, a cycle there. Mercury is very quick. All right, you have Venus, all right, you have Earth, you have Mars a little further out. Then you get the larger planets, and the further away you go from the sun, the slower the planets move. And apparently the slower the planets move, the more power they have. So Pluto, for example, in terms of the way there may be other planets past that, discovered a new planet. But mainly we're thinking Pluto is the outermost planet. And it moves the slowest, and so it has the most power. And what happens is a lot of times at your birth time, you have conjunctions. Okay, in other words, planets conjunct your sun, and you can also have planets conjuncting to each other. And so, because he just passed away, yeah, unfortunately, Dean Dana Rigg. Son. Okay, so what is she there? I know she's a tiger in terms of the Chinese, but gosh, brain just, But conjuncting her son, Cancer. Okay. She has Pluto conjunct Sun. Okay. Pluto conjuncts Sun. But Mars also conjuncts Sun, so she has a planet of power. Pluto. But she also has Mars placed there, right with her Sun, conjuncting it. And Mars is energy, assertion, aggression. And so, they were looking for who to cast this the new female lead in the Avengers in the 60s. And she actually wasn't hired, but they kind of remembered her because, to quote one of the producers, they remembered her because she kind of had what they call this sort of animal magnetism, vitality. In fact, what they were looking for was, and this is very sexist, someone with M appeal, male appeal, woman, right? So they called the character Emma Peel off of that. And, she was classically trained. So, who would figure that she'd get pretty famous running around in black leather combat suits? But she did. It was a combination of many things. And sometimes you find certain things. For example, your planetary birth sign and somebody else's planetary birth sign. Well, she's a Sun Cancer. My moon is Cancer. And the two conjunct. Sun Moon is the strongest connection in the zodiac. Okay. I think her Venus is Virgo. My Mars is Virgo. Venus, Mars, that's a very strong, and they conjunct, hers and mine. And then there's a Venus-Mars conjunction back. Her Mars is Cancer. Well, my Venus is Cancer, and they conjunct. So what we have Sun-Moon conjunct. We have Mars-Venus conjunct. We have Venus-Mars conjunct. The only thing we don't have is her moon conjuncted to my Sun, which is Gemini. I have that with another British actress, Kate Beckinsale. Okay. And you'd be surprised. In fact, you know who shares that? In other words, the Sun, Moon are the strongest in the zodiac. You can be Moon, Sun, or Sun, Moon, okay? And one of my favorite British actresses, because she had auburn hair, and, it was Kate Beckinsale in the Underworld movies. And I found out that it was Shiba Sensei. Okay. Moon, Gemini. Sun, Gemini, conjunct. And of course, he was born all the way in 1883, but there's a bunch of other stuff there that is actually pretty revealing. So, astrology I've always found really interesting. And you're advised sometimes don't plan a trip during a Mercury retrograde. Well, maybe the best thing to do is not have an important presidential election, when Mercury's retrograding, when there's all this, which has been deliberately planted around, mail-in ballots and communication and everything. Okay, and then you get the Mars going this way, so there's going to be a lot of swings. you know. A lot of people may decide they're going to vehemently vote for, and then all of a sudden go, and go. So it's going to be a fascinating time. So what does the Aikido say? No, keep your center. Through all these energies and forces which the planets represent. And those forces are moving in relationship with one another, and they affect us. So what we're doing a little bit is, as we individuate or get back to more of an original core beingness, yeah, you're going to go periods where Saturn comes in and just goes, and nothing works. Or you're in a Jupiter period where you seem to walk on air. Wow. Okay. And so, you know, the astrology sometimes is, you know, it's interesting to kind of look at. I had a session a couple of weeks ago because I just was interested in the general timing of things out there. I do it once a year. I actually do declare it as a business consult because you can, well, okay, tighten your belts. Oh yeah, it's going to be better. Okay, so sometimes you get a sense of a period of time for business or other things. Professionally, okay, I'm supposed to be in this, I think it's still a very good Pluto cycle, although you couldn't tell it from everything going on. Pluto's power. Pluto's on my 11th house of career, 10th house of career. I get that confused. I used to think that stuff cold, but you know, it's kind of as not quite as up on it. But we were in the park going through some changes with the staff. And so I thought what we do is go into the other room and recap them. Let me see. Let me check before we go. Kind of a light day today, but yeah, hopefully more people will see this online. So we're trying to do a good job. So without further ado, we're gonna move into the other room. Okay. That's about right. Now, I guess the thing right here, let me just check with lights. And we'll see whether the lighting has anything. Just a little further forward. Just a little further back. So we've investigated in a better lighting system. So we're right about where we should be. David, is the lighting adding anything?
It is adding something. It's not as effective as when you're shooting at night, but
okay, but it's adding something to the plus side.
Yes.
Okay.
Your iPad is slightly to one side. It's slightly tilted.
See that right here. All right.
That's better.
Okay, now we're back here in the full body shot. So anyway, I use a shorter staff for inside because you don't want to break a lamp or all right. And so what we covered in the park, okay, on Saturday was just kind of working. We had a pretty advanced level, I think. You know, we had Steve and Yu Chen, and of course David was there. We also had Anthony, so everybody was a black belt, all right? And so we're going through you know, the basic changes. Now, most of the time, the staff is kind of taught in a very, very rudimentary way, okay, through a sequence of moves. Okay? And we have been going through, you know, basically a progression, whether you know it or not, about how to take a lot of that to a different level, okay? So what we're going to do, it's probably easier for most of you to work right in the middle, okay? Now, what I do is I work here. And what that does, this is something that it's not a spear, but it's similar. This is got a point to it, not much of one. No, and for example, if I'm spinning and I go like, right? So it's very important for me to know which end would be the sharp end of the spear. So what I tend to do is I tend to hold not in the middle, but here, okay? Towards the top, right? And with that, I know the long end is the pointed end, and the short end is the safe end, okay? Now even the safe end, you kind of want to, and so a lot of basic Aikido movements, you know, start to, now when you're doing this fancy stuff, you're going to do things like, you know, or you're going to try this and it's going to, okay. But that's like learning how to play notes on a musical instrument. You're going to hit some sour notes. And you're also going to, if you're dribbling a basketball, you're going to dribble it off your knees and ankles, just the way it goes. So what we also cover, right, is first change, thumbs face away, ikkyo. Second change, thumbs face each other. Third change, thumbs face you. Fourth change is more, not so much, but boom, that feeling of sinking the center, pinning, okay? Fifth change, again, it's like knife taking, okay, go this way, and then, you know, I go like this, the knife can cut here. So right here, the knife, see, the thumb goes in the direction of it, so you can rotate it away. So simulating that here, the fifth change, you have the blade of the hand, and the thumb is here. So, you know, Shomenuchi, catch here, that's your ikkyo, cut. Extend thumb here, gokyo. All right, so repeating, thumbs away, 1. Thumbs towards each other, 2. Thumbs toward you, 3. Back to the hand position for 1 is 4, but the feeling is not putting your weight down, but of sinking your center, pinning, sink your center, sink your center. And 5 is, you know, I mean, basically here. Okay, good. Okay, now, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now what we're going to do here is just go through what I call the fire-water changes. Now you can make the fire-water changes, you know, just from the ikkyo position. And the basic change starts here with a figure 8. Figure 8. No hanmi, no triangle. Okay, now what I want you to be able to do is pass it to your left hand and practice the figure 8 on the left side. It's good exercise because if you don't want to be totally armed. See, the actual figure 8 appears to have an out there, but it really is powered by your core. Okay? So being able to do that and then shift, being able to kind of do. Now, the next step would be, for example, you make the change, and you make the change without stopping. In other words, okay, now I'm going to do it. Now I'm going to change hands. Now we're making it with each loop we're changing. Now, even here, you can go, so you're going to do that most of it. Okay? Put one hand, it feeds the other hand. See, now right here, right and left sort of have to be in harmony. Practice changing without disturbing the figure 8 pattern. Right side does it, passes it to the left. Left exchanges the back to the right. It's an easy exchange. Okay, good. Now, this is thumb away, makes it the first change. But the second change, thumbs face each other. Third change, thumbs face you. Well, see, this position where the thumbs facing you can either be second or third. So you can do the same thing. In fact, this is much easier. Those of you that like the Japanese samurai films, there's the blind swordsman. His cane sword. He basically cuts in a figure 8. And you can fade. You get more flow with this position. Ikkyo position. There's more strength to it. This is more adaptable. And again, this can be either third or second. Okay, good. Okay, so that's pretty much your basic. Now, when you're, for example, doing with a triangle, you run into the fact that yes. So we're starting out non-triangle. Make this a little easier. Okay, now we're going to go figure 8. First change. Figure 8. First change. Okay, figure 8. Second change. Figure 8. Second change. Okay. And when you can do that without stopping the figure 8 motion, right? You get better at just sort of passing it forward. Okay. I just started to go into something else there. Okay. You can go into that from either first change or second change. What I did, for example, from here, thumb down from the top, thumb down from the top, thumb down from the top. Okay, if I, for example, shift, this is Nikkyo position. Still thumb down from the top, thumb down from the top. Notice how when everything is, the long end is in an ascent, thumb down from the top. Long end is in an ascent, thumb down from the top. For me, I'm still keeping, I'm not holding in the middle. I'm holding more towards one side. If you got a longer stick bomb, you may bonk yourself a couple of times until you get the feeling. See how right here on the ascent of the figure 8, thumb down from the top. The ascent of the figure 8. So just right here. Okay, good. Okay. And you just have to kind of play around with it. Right? Now, here we're just doing, we switch back to the first grip, Ikkyo. Right? Still. Right? Interesting that from here, on the ascent, that end up going up. We switch grips. changes change it, right? I don't use this group change very much. I usually use the second or the third to do it, but here, right, good. Right? But mainly I just want to orient, this is long, this is short. I hold more towards one side because I don't want to get a surprise. I mean, not that I'm going to, do something. I do have a point on one of those. I don't want to go, anyway, but I also don't want that sharp point in me, okay? So, and we got the figure 8. Now, as it's on the come up from the bottom. See, when the long end is down, come up from the top. Long end is on the bottom, come up from the bottom. So you're getting, you don't have to know this. This is the best thing in the world. It's just to not worry about it, just being the body feels sensitive. But, initially you're gonna, boom, you're gonna drop the staff and everything like that. But be careful when you swing it around because there may be people, there may be objects around. Okay, and then when I go this way, see, it's the opposite. When long end is up on the ascent, that's when I add from the top. And when the, boom. Okay. Now what we can do, for example, either this or this. Keep it going, one direction. 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 Thumb down, thumb up. Thumb down, thumb up. Thumb down, thumb up. Figure 8. I can do the change either from underneath or from the top. Keep it going in that direction. And when you get a nice flow going, okay? And you'll find, for example, is your hands, your wrists get more limber. It's hard to do. So you just get a flow going, boom. All of a sudden, you get some of that going, even without holding anything. Up. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Okay, so now we've covered, and again, that change off the figure 8, which is probably, it can be top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, boom, boom, or bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, boom, or conversely, we're here in the first change, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, or top, bottom. So you play around a little bit to where you can do this without giving it an awful lot of conscious thought. And when you're in the process of that, you're going to do that. But one of the things that you do get, notice how when I make this change, okay, like right about here, this is the center, this is a circle. But here, this is a center, and this is boom, see it, boom, boom, boom. You go into what we call a logarithmic spiral there. See, this is linear, even though it's in motion. This boom, So when somebody grabs the wrist, you know, you go boom, right? In Star Trek terms, something you can't handle just with impulse power. You need to go real fast somewhere. There's warp drive. Or there's work drive. Okay? So you have the capability, if you do this, for understanding a little bit how energy moves. Okay? Now, from here, so you work on these changes. And you can do that from first change position. First change position. Second, this position can be second, thumbs face, or thumbs towards you, third. This is a bit quicker. Boom, boom, boom. A bit more fluid than the first change. The first change is a stronger motion out there, but the second change allows you, boom, after a while, just to be able to do things that you don't quite get in the first change. Okay? Boom. So what we're going to do now, we've been standing in a non-triangle, but what I'm going to have you do is just walk in a circle. Now what I want you to see is when you walk, anytime you take a step, you're forming a triangle. Now if I take a longer circle, the triangle becomes more extreme, but it's still a triangle, point base. Okay. Or reverse. Now I'm taking a step, and I'm walking. I don't walk this way. Actually, every time I step, there's a triangle. So I just want you to walk. And after a while, change directions. Walk the circle in the other direction. You can make a bigger circle, or you can make the circle very, very, very condensed. With every step you're taking, you're forming a triangle. Okay, yeah, we're getting up there. We need to get into a couple of other areas. But here, neutral, no triangle. Figure 8 change from the first position, EQ, right? Bottom, top, top, bottom, doesn't matter. Just be able to do that change. Bottom, up. Start to think you mess up. You find that out pretty quick. Bottom, okay. And you're gonna lose. It's gonna confound you. Okay. I'm sure when Stephen Curry was learning how to dribble the basketball, he had days where the basketball just seemed to hate him with his own mind. He'd dribble it off, or off his knee and then his ankle, and maybe he'd lose it, and he had to go get it and feel stupid. That happens. All right? But you keep going. Now, what we're going to do, coordinate the triangle, circle. See, we're walking in a circle, but we're stepping in a triangle. And now what I want you to do, all right? Let's give this a try. So I'm walking counterclockwise. And that's the direction of my spin. Top, bottom, top, bottom. See, I can't coordinate the two, yeah, but on the move, after a bit, try that. That's a very basic one. Right? When you get a feel for it, you have to perfect it. Now, there's a tendency, you have a dominant side, that's where, basketball, you've got to be able to do some things with your left. Right? Japanese culture, sword, they don't teach you southpaw sword. Somebody, I asked them about, what happens if you're left-handed? They said the major in the spear. You know, there's certain spear movements that are right side, but mainly it's left. Okay, so, yeah. Okay, now, if you're going clockwise, go counterclockwise. If you're going counterclockwise to start, you go clockwise. Okay, but here I'm going the other way. And I'm going to be doing same change, top, bottom, trying to coordinate. Now, initially, you may do things like that happens. Okay? But, you know, increase the size of the circle and decrease the size of the circle and be able to form the triangular steps in the circular pattern. Okay? Okay, so try that side of it. And you may drop it, you may stumble, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. But have an easiness to it. We all make mistakes. And there's a great expression in Japanese called Saru Demo Ki Kara Uchiru, which means even monkeys fall from trees. Okay? Let's see, we got somebody else here. Okay, hi. David, is this any easier for you than Saturday in the park? No?
Not really. Today,
Yeah.
my hands, I feel like I'm running my hands through a mangle.
Yeah.
The staff rolls across my hands, and it's like every place it rolls, it feels like I'm taking a rolling pin and ironing out my knuckles with it.
Yeah, you know, what it is a little bit, you know, is that we're learning stuff that's supposed to get us into the experience of something. And when we're learning stuff about something that's the experience, we're on the outside looking in. But don't stop. Don't stop. Okay, yeah, so I'm, yeah. It was like me trying to figure out QuickBooks online a couple, it's just going nuts, okay? Usually what happens, you hire an expert, all right, and they kind of coach you through some things. And one of the things is right here, you know, just be very easy with it. First change, boom, 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 first change, boom, boom, boom. And, you know, almost drop that one. Well, then you can start to make the changes. This is non-Hanmi, all right? You can go back and forth like a teeter-totter. You can move on to that. But, okay, now, this is the simple thing. If you stay on one thing till you master it, you oftentimes don't master it. You get it, but in a rigid way. So now we're gonna really up the ante, and this is what we're gonna do. We've been walking in the direction of the circle and spinning, making the changes in that direction. Okay. All right. Now what we're gonna do is walk in the direction and spin counter to that. Now this is hard, sometimes you go, right? And sometimes, you know, what happens, you go like this and boom, that the circle kind of has a life of its own. Just be easy with it. You know, the harder you hold it, the harder it's gonna bonk you. So, you know, you're easy with it. But I'm gonna walk in a counterclockwise circle, and the changes, fire to water, I call them fire water changes, go clockwise to that. Okay, so try that a little bit. And maybe you can do it or maybe you can't, but give it a try. Okay. Now, and this is important, I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go what I call clockwise with my steps and counterclockwise with the spin. And you'll find you probably have a side that is better than the other side. That's very natural. Okay. Now, what I'm doing right there is just kind of laying out things that you can start to work on. Okay? So this is the next step. So you pick, I mean, you can do this, okay? But then you figure eight, and you go the other direction. Now we're going, spinning and walking in the same direction. Anytime you want to shift, you do the figure eight. And you shift. Figure eight allows you to go one direction. Okay, figure eight. Make the change either top or bottom, that doesn't matter. You're going to find out certain ones work better for you. You just see if you can do that. Now this is, I call this intuitive. So walking in a direction and spinning in that direction. Okay? And anytime I can figure eight and change and go the other direction. And I'm walking in that direction and spinning in that direction. Okay, figure eight. Figure eight, change. Okay, now let's, right, so part of this is I'm trying to give you a lot of terrain to explore. You can remember the sequence or you cannot. Okay, now what we're going to try now is what I call counterintuitive. okay? And this is a major one. This is a major one. See, what's funny is if you're intuitive, you have a lot of trouble with counterintuitive. If you're counterintuitive and you need to be more linear, you can be counterintuitive. So what we're going to do here, I'm walking the circle in a counterclockwise direction and spinning clockwise. We did that. But here, I want to be able to do a figure eight and reverse the direction. 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 Expand the circle, shrink the circle. See if you can get those changes or begin to kind of get the sense of them. Okay, if you do it and you work on it 10 hours a day, you'll get better, but it's going to be mechanical. You get the sense of it. And you may lose it for a little bit, but you're easy with it. Okay, so, and we had a certain amount. This is pretty much what we covered on Saturday. So we're gonna do another change here, which is really just a modification of our first. The first change was figure eight, or as figure eight from the first hand change position, Ikkyo. And this again, the thumb is facing up, not away. Whoops, can be both Nikkyo or Sankyo. I find this much more adaptable, right? Okay, yeah. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to put both hands in the middle. Now, I find it real difficult. You can do it this way. I actually do these changes more. Thumbs face me, which gives me the second position or the third position. And if I need to get into the first position, boom, it's very quick, right? I just rotate and spin. And again, I'm holding not in the middle because I'm treating this end as if it were sharp. It's a spear point. I'm holding more towards this end. Okay, now, this is what we're going to do. Which you'll notice with two hands, it's hard to get the exponential. Yeah. Okay? Boom. Not. But there's a potential for takeoff. There's a potential for takeoff. Boom, boom. With two hands, you got more drag. So what you are doing when you add to get the exponential motion is you're starting to develop more core. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. And most of my changes are off of the figure eight and with the double grip. Okay? So from here, for example, somebody's coming in here, rake, pierce. Somebody grabs you from the back, boom. Go low, break, finish. All right? So we're doing all these drills. I mean, how many of those crazy drills that Curry does he do in the game? Well, he does some of them with more than one basketball, so we can't do that in the basketball game. But he describes it as system overload. When you can handle two, one is going to be pretty easy. When you can do two at a decreasing rate, handling one, you gain flow. So what for most people is total chaos is for him flow. And his sense of self is so extensive in those, he can boom, boom, go many different directions. Boom, 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 boom. And everybody else is, they're chasing him around. Okay, all right? So what we're gonna do here, figure eight. That's probably somebody trying to sell me insurance. And now, what's important here is how do you generate the actual exponential? Boom, boom. From here. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom, boom. So what I want you to do is do your figure eight. Boom, boom. Now right here, for example, that's the Sankhya position. Okay, somebody's behind you, boom. Break. Somebody's on this side, boom, back, boom, low, break, boom, boom. And then you have a nice, easy, in basketball, you have a nice, easy handle, but you're passing your shots across. Boom, boom. Okay? Boom. And you work these drills, because right here, for example, when I go here, boom, there's an exponential. This speed exponentializes. Call it angular momentum, whatever it is. It just, boom. Without forcing everything, that spin takes off. Boom, 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 boom. Boom. And the hard thing is being able to do that. Boom, boom. You have that other hand. Now, when you get this and you add those changes, and you start to, then you add the steps or the triangle to it. Boom. You start to generate a lot of different things. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Motion here and here becomes like that. Or the motion here becomes like that. One, you can change into other movements. So you do the drills. So you'll be able to, for example, here, figure eight, you can do the counterintuitive drill. And then you start to work here, smooth flow, but boom, boom. See, that motion doesn't start with the hands. Boom, boom, boom. So if somebody's coming at you from behind the back, boom, maybe you have an umbrella or a walking stick. Boom, or maybe you go, right? You become the spirit. Working with Hikazushi Sensei one time, he was showing me my opening on the movement, and he just went with his elbow right to my teeth, and he did not break my teeth. But I felt he could have done it very easy. The placement was right there. It was like a sword or spear. Okay? Well, Sensei said, when you understand one of the secrets of Aikido, which is to close your openings, you have what's called Moroha. Moroha no Ken, it's double-edged sword or spear. Cutting edge to cutting edge, you become that. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Okay? Boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. So ultimately what you're using a lot is kind of the double-handed figure eight, but boom, boom. Now this is basically all off of the third position. You know, but we could boom here, boom, 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 boom. I switch though. Boom. If I need the heavy artillery, boom. Off of a turn, boom. You have that motion. Okay? Boom. But since I said move in circles around a stable center. This is a circle, that's a circle. This is a circle, that's a circle, that's a circle, that's a circle. And all those changes, this is the stable center. It's not a fixed point. You go here, 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 boom, 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 boom. Somebody comes to attack you, you're very mobile, but boom, there's a kind of a and that knee kill motion. Somebody's coming in here, you move in here and sound kill, boom, boom. Okay? And so you much more in touch with the two-handed stuff, boom. And you may have trouble, you know, trying to copy the movements and always being a step slow. Boom, 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 boom. So you don't always use that gear, but that gear is always there if you need it. Boom, boom, boom. That motion for example, that's one circle, that's another circle. They're two separate tracks, but boom. You go this way, that's another circle, and that's another circle. So you start to move in circles. That's a circle, that's another one. Boom. Initially, you do crazy things like poke yourself in the leg, but boom. For a while, boom, you're part of the harmony of the whole space. Okay? So we are there. You're at 1 o'clock, so we'll check in, see what you think. I'm going to move into the other room. Whew. And I'm going to turn the lights off before I do. Oh, wrong one. And I'm going to hydrate for a second. Okay. Okay. David, any changes in experience from Saturday or?
I'll just, some days my hands just aren't, they're clumsy. Some days my hands are clumsy. And it's like something that I could, you know, the hand changes, some days they're just easy. And other days I keep getting the, you know, it starts doing like this. I can't get my fingers to go right.
Yep. You know, when I play music, some days the riffs just come and some days you go, oh, what's going on here? Usually means when you're having a difficulty, you're up against something big. You know, and most people either they just give up. Giving up means you either quit or you become mechanical. And so a lot of times, okay, that's that next level there. And sometimes we traverse that gateway very easily. That's a good day. And other days, it's like we're right up against it. It usually means that it's not the same wall. It's a series of walls, you know? It's almost like to go from this level to the next level, there's a dragon. Okay, but darn it, I thought I was done with the dragon. That was a dragon at wall 2. Now there's another dragon at wall 3. Okay, now what'd you do at wall 2? I don't know. I hung in there, I just let go of it, and all of a sudden, wow, everything opened up, and oh no, I got that dragon back. It's not the same dragon. And that's a hard lesson. Okay, so you're right where you should be. Okay. Anything else?
I'm still here, still doing it. It's just some days it seems like I could do it easier last week than I can do it today.
Yeah. Bonnie, did you, you came in a little late. Did you catch any of the stuff we were doing?
Dorian.
Oh, is it Dorian? Okay, sorry. You were way back there. It's usually Bonnie White, and so you're not Bonnie White. But...
No, I did.
Yeah.
I did, and it was good. And I find myself for the first time just focusing on the transitions. Just pass, move, put the stick in your right hand, put the stick in your left hand, walk this way, walk that way, and just like do the very, very simple, straightforward thing. Get clear about why it's difficult. It's like what the pattern is between turning right and turning left. So I went a little on my own, but I learned something interesting about the upward and the downward figure 8.
Yeah. And, that's the danger of when you systematize anything, because it makes it easier. But all of a sudden, you know, when you start to systematize, sometimes, you know, it's tough because you give people a tool. But then all of a sudden it gets to where the system itself starts getting in the way. Okay, that's basic Bruce Lee. You know, I'm not a great believer in systems or method. Without systems or method, what is there to teach? You know, I mean, that's the Bruce Lee quote, you know. So, you know, I mean, you know, a lot of this stuff that I'm laying out is not stuff the way I learned it. It's just you know, I just let the staff move, and at some point say, well, okay, where is this change and what is that change, right? There's kind of a linear approach towards more. And then there's the fact the more is going right back at you. And that's why sometimes, you know, okay, I got this, and all of a sudden, whoa, where'd all that go? Well, the actual source of it is coming right at you. So what you want to be able to turn your back and write it. And, you know, I learned most of this stuff because I just messed around. You know, I'd watch O-Sensei a little bit, and I'd watch him how he did it. Hikizuchi Sensei's movements were, you know, I mean, of the people who actually did the staff, I found, you know, that he was probably the one you say, oh yeah, that's kind of like O-Sensei. But Hikizuchi Sensei's movements were all 1-2. Now, whether he did more advanced movements, sometimes teachers don't teach you that. They just kind of show you a movement and then they do their own thing. But basically, he would go 1-2, and all I did was 1, 2, 3, 4. Everything I do is I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. It's the opposite of jazz. It's 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. I go the other way. Drives Nado Sensei crazy. Because he likes the orderly approach back, and I'm kind of like, that's good. Why don't you turn around and just ride the other thing for a while, see what happens, right? They're both going on. The source, the one going out into the many, and the many tracing back to the one. They're both energy currents, all right? They're both timelines. All right, so which one are you gonna ride? I like the one going out. He likes the many going back to the one. Okay, so, and I do that too. You can't do one exclusively. But, from the standpoint of that one going out into the many move. At a certain point you go, okay, that's how that works and that works. And that's good for people, except what you find a lot of times when it's totally explained to you, it still doesn't make sense. Or it makes sense, but when you start to try to do it, everything, all hell breaks loose. And that's just the nature of it, right? And so if you're right up against the next thing, it's another dragon, but it's not the same dragon you faced before. And when you can cross, what did you do the very first time? I played Super Mario Brothers once. All right, I played it a lot because my daughter loved it. And then I found out you could kind of like hop into a mushroom or something, and you would be right there, for the dragon, right? And so what happened? I didn't know what to do. So the dragon comes at me, that last dragon. I hop over it, and kabam! I rescue the princess. Wow! Pow, 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 fireworks! I can never do it again. Because I started thinking, how do I beat the dragon? And the first thing, the first time I did it, I beat the dragon because I was surprised that I was there. And so I did something irrational, and the dragon missed me and hopped over it, rescued the princess. So a lot of ways, that's kind of how you learn. Now the question is, are you okay with the nonlinear? And the linear is just a prep. You're going to learn stuff. But then there's the non-linear side of it. You're in the many going back to the one. But you're also simultaneously the one going into the many. You're both. I'm both. So you ride both. It's nice to kind of fill the gaps in a little bit. And it's also realized, I think, Sensei said, okay, here we are. I'm the one, I'm going to go on the many. I'm going to ride that current. But he had the knowledge, certain amount of knowledge to get to it, which is the linear. But the other thing, the many going into the one going to many is nonlinear, it just is. And we hit it to varying degrees. Bruce Lee called it not so much power, he called it liberation. You're free. And you're in a system, but you go, there's a natural fluidity to anything until you over-educate and make it rigid. Now you have to have a certain amount of that grounding in order to allow the one to express itself among the many. Okay, so that's an ongoing process, right? But since it said use the one to strike the many, all right, what does that mean? In other words, you unify. Everything came out of that unity. Therefore, it's not that you're striking everything. Everything's been orchestrated around that original unity. In fact, your hand changes. If I have to think about it, I start dropping the stick and everything like that. But, just explaining, thumb up, thumb down, just that. And if you can start to walk, the intuitive direction or figure eight and go counterintuitive, all right, then you're getting some of the basics of, oh, okay, this just, and it may come all at once, or it may take you a little bit of work, or some people, they don't want to let go in order to catch it. They just want to keep plugging away at the, some people get pretty far that way. But I remember the thing that really astounded me was, because Hikisuchi Sensei will teach the 1-2 of the movement, okay? But when I was studying with him, he never did it twice the same way. He used to confuse people. And then what happened years after, I was doing other things, right? And I found out that he systematized it. So he could charge for rank. You want a certification in Masakatsu Bojutsu, then, ba-bam, okay, good, you got it now, there's a fee, And people do that. I mean, yeah, it's tempting somewhat because money is so bad right now. But there's a sense where you can't do that. I mean, I think Chet Baker told Art Frank, I called Art today, I just got his answer machine, I hope he's okay. But what Chet Baker told Art was, yeah, if I really get hard up for money, I'll just teach people how to improvise. And Art said, you can do that? I said, yeah. Because he was asked one time by Herb Alpert, you know, the Tijuana brass guy, and also he was a mogul, did his own recording companies and stuff. To teach me how to improvise, Chet Baker told him, I can't teach you, Herb, because improvisation is totally dependent on imagination. And he added an addendum, or lack thereof. So all this is source going out there is imagination that becomes solid fairly quickly, but stays fluid. When you're going this way, you learn more, but you're also bumping into a series of walls or dragons, because every time you bump into it, you got to let go to catch and ride that for a little bit. And then you hit another wall or hit another dragon. As I said, the only time I ever actually rescued the princess in, you know, that video game, or whatever it was I don't know, it wasn't even a video game then, because it was just, you got a console and you played the game that way. It was fun. I had a lot of fun with my daughter. It was just like, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That was Pac-Man, that's right. It wasn't Super Mario Brothers. But, you know, those older, more primitive games were kind of fun. But, you know, you hit a wall. You're very easy there. Most people try to get better, try to figure it out more, or whether get the secret of it. My sense, the real secret of it, you don't do anything there. You go, oh, take a couple of deep breaths. And you realize that's the one going into the many, and you ride it for a bit. If you have any issues, then you, right? So if you have a difficulty with it, that's the way you handle it. If you're making a lot of mistakes and everything, you realize you're hitting a wall or there's another dragon. What does that mean? That means you progressed. And there's other things coming your way, and therefore there's more letting go to do. You don't stop. You just, after a while, you kind of realize. You know, and sometimes, you know, you got to seize the moment. There was something I bumped into on Facebook, which I think was 2017 NBA Finals. It was LeBron James and the Cavaliers against the Warriors. And the year before, I mean, the Cavaliers kind of stole the championship from the Warriors. And there was one memorable block, a couple of blocks that LeBron did. And so, you know, one of them was he pinned Curry under the hoop, and then Curry, you know, he blocked Curry's shot as he was trying to get around LeBron. But in 2017, all of a sudden, you know, there's a switch, so LeBron doesn't normally guard Curry, but he's on Curry. And Curry kind of just goes, and it's like the Keystone Cops. He has LeBron dancing around, and what happens is that, you know, because you read it, right, he's doing all of these things, LeBron's right with him. And then, you know, it's just a suggestion, because Curry he doesn't, but he gives the sense he's going to go back. He's about the only guy, maybe a couple other guys can do this now, but you don't want him to go back, because he could make it from 30, 40 feet. And so just the second LeBron recognizes that Curry is going to go back, he doesn't. He blows past LeBron, going to the hoop. Well, guess what? It's LeBron who does superhuman things. And so LeBron's closing on him. Now, there was another guy that had a couple of stops against Curry in the season before, because Curry had an ankle and an MCL strain in one of his legs. So he was not at 100%. If he had, we would have won. So the two guys converge, just like karma. So Curry, just goes after he makes LeBron chase him like the Keystone Cops. He goes past LeBron, and LeBron is almost right with him. And this other guy that stopped Curry on one key possession because Curry had a bad leg, he comes into close. So they're both converging on, and Curry gets to the hoop just that split instant, puts it off the board, and goes in. And you can't draw that play up. And he did a series of these moves. And all of a sudden, he didn't even go step back, shoot, but he went that way. LeBron bit, he was past him. And he sensed LeBron coming up behind him, and he sensed this other guy there. He's got a split instant, a timeline to get the ball up at an angle between those two guys off the board and in. It's beautiful. At that speed. And there's LeBron, a super athlete, very intelligent, can read stuff, but we can't reach it. And Curry, for that one moment, LeBron got the better of that stuff a lot, but not then. And I always liked David versus Goliath, and that was definitely David versus Goliath. Okay? But anyway, that pattern of motion. Now, when you get the two-hand figure eight, boom, 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 boom. But it's hard to do because when we hold this way, we everything slows down. So you work on these drills and loosen up. And like for me, if I had in battle with a spear, I'd be this way. But in more social conditions with a staff or something, I'd be holding this way because somebody behind you, boom, or somebody in front of you, behind you, or turn, boom, rake, bam, boom, right? And all of that, you're boom, 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 boom. You're orchestrating getting the exponential through the two. It's hard to do that. Boom, that, boom. And that takes a little bit of work. Did I do that work? Yeah, but not in a conscious way. I just kept letting the staff move and kept dropping it and bouncing it and poking myself with it. And then more of it showed and more of it showed. So you ride the one going into the many. And you're going backwards towards the one, you're going to get dragons. I do that too. Okay. But instead of beating yourself up there, you're easy there. Because you're easy there, then all of a sudden, you do what I did with the Super Mario Brothers. I found the magic mushroom to actually get right to face the ultimate dragon to rescue the princess. And instead of trying to figure it out, I jumped, his fireball missed me, I landed behind him, and then all hell broke loose. I got the fireworks and everything like that. Could I ever do it again? Not that I really tried. It was just like, well, what's the point in it? I could play this game forever, but and I tried it a couple of times, and just knowledge that way didn't work. But that one time I didn't know anything, so I was fluid. And so that's kind of what you want. When you're in the one going into the many, there's a fluidity there. When you're in the many going back towards the one, you're learning, your math and your algebra and your calculus and your da, 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 da. But the other one, there's a math to it, but it's different. Yeah, you got to learn what changes. And you got to learn the figure eight, and the thumb up, thumb down. And then, you do the walking of a circle, counterintuitive or intuitive, right? Well, you get to where you can, And as I said, even with the short one, I create a long end because that to me is the sharp end of the spear, Right? And if I hold the middle and I start to spin, I don't know which direction would be the spear point. So there's just a couple of things. You got to mess around with it. If you don't mess around with it, you stay very ordinary. And ordinary is not bad. It's just most people are ordinary and they try to get better and they do, but they're still ordinary. And if you're going to do a movement, boom, 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 it comes through you. Somebody's what you just do, I don't know. But when I'm really playing well, let's say I'm playing the horn, I don't know what I did. There's a certain amount of, beats in the measure, and there's a certain amount of chord structure. You got to be able to cut them up and mix them up, and then you got to be able to tie it to the next frame and the next frame. There's changes, but you don't know. It's like you're creating a terrain, with notes, mountain range, bottom of the ocean, whatever it is like that, with your sounds. And if you're going, I'm going to play it that way, yeah, you can do that something when you're studying somebody. But then, when you just start to kind of, it's almost like, great ones, they mess around, you get paid for it. Which is kind of nice. I haven't really reached that level. Okay. So, any questions or anything to, yeah. No, I mean, so if you're, it's dawning, yeah. I mean, all this stuff started, actually it started when I would watch old sensei, when Nado sensei and Fraser sensei were kind of doing their workshops, and sensei were doing all this stuff with the staff. And then you realize everybody else, you're doing your staff system, right? But I was always kind of trying to learn that, and then I learned Hikizuchi sensei's, basic moves. And then, and then he kind of opened the gateway for me. And then, I would stand at my parents' house where he kind of did the gateway and the ceremony. And staff would just move. And for a long time, I had to be there. I'm talking a couple of weeks. But then after a while, I could just go somewhere and all of a sudden the staff would start to move. That was it. I've been doing that since, 1974. So that's 26 years plus 20, so it's almost 50 years. So you may need to put a little bit of time in getting a balance in the many going back to the one. But my sense is, at any point, there is that other motion happening. Okay? And the easier, the clearer the I self stays, the more we can ride the one going into the many. And that's just my sense. If somebody says, well, I can't do that. Yeah, I couldn't either at one time. And again, I mentioned this one video that Curry did called, again, underrated skills and drills, and he's dribbling, and he's outside, and he goes down, and he bounces the ball off of the wall, comes right back to him, and he says, your high school coach is going to hate me. Why? High school coach doesn't want the players going like that, bouncing the ball back. But if you don't do that, you stay pretty ordinary. Coach's dream. Okay, I'll put you in, I know what I'm going to get. Curry was not highly recruited. The only scholarship he got through Division I school was Davidson College, which was really bad. And Davidson's coach scouted him. And what was interesting was Curry had a horrible game in high school. And somebody asked the coach, who actually offered Curry the scholarship, why don't you give that skinny kid, especially since he didn't have a good game when you went to watch him. And what the coach said is, I don't care what you would have seen. I saw genius. I saw brilliance. Anybody can have a bad game. So that part of it, is that you may not be the flashiest or the best, but the right people will notice you. It's a really funny thing, or it's not so much that the right person will notice you. The universe will notice you. I watched that online Netflix movie, was it Enola Holmes? And it's about Sherlock Holmes' younger sister. And what her mom told the young girl, says, if you don't make any noise, nobody will listen to you. So she's kind of taught to just be very independent and very, very, very independent. And so that's somewhat true. I mean, you got to make some noise for the universe to notice you. I mean, what Kototama would be is just you're making the sounds. So the universe starts to say, oh, okay, let's hang out. And so when you're moving like that, you're moving off the archetypal patterns of creation, the universe starts to notice you. And right now, there's not much to do because of the whole situation with social isolation and everything. So you spend a lot of time with your staff and just seeing how it moves and going through. I'm giving basic drills because, if you watch Curry, he gives basic drills now, but I don't know if he did those at all. I think he just kept on messing around with the basketball, and when he realized he could do all that, then he realized that, oh yeah, kids come to my camp. What will I teach them? I'll teach them now. Okay. See, with the one going into the many understands the many. And the many trying to get back to the one, whether they realize it or not, generally stops whenever they hit a wall or bump into a dragon. So it's a funny paradox. So let's see, any questions or observations? Dorian, anything you want to add? Or?
Well, sure. Just real quick, my phone's about to die. Imagination seems really, really important in all of this, and like harmony among imaginations seems to be, or harmony among people showing up for imagination seems to be a thing that makes a difference between, whether you're more like a dragon or more like the person who's meeting the dragon at any given moment. It looks like, as I listen to this.
Yeah, I mean, we tend to hit walls and dragons all the time. It's just that most people kind of, after a while, they just get numb. If you're kind of struggling with this stuff, there are levels of struggle. So at that particular point, it's almost like one of the things that be able to progress from one level to the other. In other words, to pass from this dragon to the next, is you're willing to, in some sense, handle that level of struggle that happens. There's a level of growth that sort of has to be there. Sometimes if you put, it's like with me, it was like one happy moment when I actually found the magic mushroom, and I didn't know where I was. And the dragon is coming at me, and for whatever reason, I jumped when the fireball came, and I was right with the princess, and the game went crazy. I didn't, if you ask me, oh, I get it now, I try to do it again, I can never do it again. But then again, you want to spend your whole life playing a little game like that and getting better at it, or you want to find out how other things work, right? So yeah. Any other questions? Anybody? Okay. Let's see. We are going to do the new phase of the beginning Tai Chi that's starting Wednesday night. Okay. So actually, who said he's going to actually be a student in that class is my very first Aikido teacher, Robert Frazier. I don't know if he will or not, but he said he was going to do it. It's kind of cool because he studied with Master Choi in Santa Cruz. Because I actually helped Master Choi set up a beginning Tai Chi course at UC Santa Cruz. And what happened there was that was when all this stuff was real hot, because of Kung Fu, the TV series, and Bruce Lee and everything. So everybody wanted to do Chinese, Eastern stuff. Now everything is more about stock portfolios and, whatever it is. But it was a different age then. And, but yeah, I said he was going to do it. So, but he did a couple of other Tai Chi styles, but there's something Master Choi kind of has, where he's gonna do my beginning course. Okay. And what I'm thinking about that is I'm offering it as a repeat to certain people, you know, to anybody who wants to repeat it. If you're a dojo member, then you can just repeat it. Even Dorian, for example, both of you, David, Dorian, you also know the form, but by repeating it, you get it in greater depth. And then we get a little bit more, then we'll kind of go into, if there's interest, into the 54 movements. I know maybe there's not a lot of incentive, but Dorian, try to keep the sword movement somewhat alive, right? Because there's a lot in the sword movements, but you know, the basis for the sword movements is just getting a grounding in the basic, you know, we call it the fist forms. You know, Tai Chi Chuan. Everybody says Tai Chi, but it's Tai Chi Chuan. That's the way it's, Chuan means fist or boxing. Okay, so anyway, well, we'll be doing that on Wednesday night. For whatever reason, I can keep thinking today's Tuesday, but obviously it's not. Okay, so anyway, we're gonna, thank you. Work on those changes. Mess around, see, but the thing, if you work on them, you won't get them. You gotta mess around with them, right? You gotta mess around with them. Nobody gives you permission to do that stuff. If I get really, wake up with a stupid idea that, you know, we're gonna systematize it and you know, and all of a sudden I'm gonna certify people, you know, like Q tests and down tests, and it's done. Because it's that kind of that, you feel the pull. Even in the linear, the many going back to the one, you feel the pull of the one. That's what allows you to hang in there when you bump into a wall or a dragon. If you don't feel that pull, you'll just stop. And so nobody gives you permission to spin the staff around, okay? One of the Do Sensei students, a lady named Diane, she's Diana now, but she was watching O Sensei and he was doing the stuff for the staff. And so she said, oh, it's like baton twirling. And there was a kind of a hard ass Aikyo. He got really pissed. But you know, she saw the free movement of the energy. Is it baton twirling? Not really. But the other guy was so, that's a bunch of junk. Because this is thicker, heavier. Yeah, okay. There's good stuff there, but you know, the whole sense of it, I thought, well, it's kind of too bad for both of them. Because she would never have gotten the grounding in that. But she understood it was about the free movement of energy, free expression. And he had a lot of grounding in basics, but I don't think he ever got the capacity to let go and explore. Okay, anyway, thank you. We'll call it for today. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Jack.
Bye-bye.